a question still remains. Can they free the Knave of Hearts, or he'll remain in prison? With the White Rabbit, juries, witnesses, and the Queen of Hearts. This is the Queen of Words game.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Are you all ready? Silence all round, if you please. The Queen of Hearts. She made some drink me all potion, all on a summer day. The Knave of Hearts. He stole those drink me all potion, and took them quite away. Consider your verdict. Not yet. Not yet. There's a great deal to come before that. The juries and witnesses had drank the drink me all potion. They could only speak in rhymes. Oh dear. Oh dear.
You all had drank my drink me all potion. How did that happen? In order to reverse the effect, you must play the Queen of Words game in order to speak again. Call the first witness to play the Queen of Words game.
I call upon the first witness. The Hatter.
Let's begin. You must answer my riddles, and your answers are put in the square hearts in front of them. After answering my riddles, you must form sentences using those words in the square hearts to be able to proceed to the next witness.
We're halfway. White Rabbit, you may interrogate.
Yes, Your Majesty. Hatter, take off your hat.
It isn't mine.
Stolen.
I keep them to sell. I've none of my own. I am a hatter.
Give your evidence.
I am a poor man, Your Majesty. And I hadn't begun my tea not above a week or so, and what with the bread and butter getting so thin, and the twinkling of the tea.
The twinkling of what?
It began with the tea.
Of course. Twinkling begins with a T. Do you take me for a dunce? Go on.
I am a poor man, and most things twinkled after that, only the March Hare had said something.
I didn't.
You did.
I deny it.
He denies it. Leave out that part.
Hold it. Let's proceed with the game.
Give your evidence, and don't be nervous, or I'll have you executed on the spot.
Well, at any rate, the Dormouse said something. After that, I cut some more bread and butter.
But what did the Dormouse say?
That I can't remember.
You must remember.
I am a poor man, Your Majesty.
You're a very poor speaker.
Enough. Ready for the next round? You have completed using all the words in a sentences. We must proceed to the next witness.
Hatter, if that's all you know about it, you may stand down.
I can't go no lower. I am on the floor, as it is.
Then you may sit down.
I'd rather finish my tea.
You may go.
Just take his head off outside.
Call the next witness.
We shall have some fun now, and I am glad they've begun asking riddles. I believed I can guess that.
Do you mean that you think you can find out the answer to it?
Exactly so.
Then you should say what you mean.
I do, at least. At least I mean what I say. That's the same thing, you know.
Not the same thing a bit. Why, you might just as well say that, I see what I eat, is the same thing as, I eat what I see.
You might just as well say, that I like what I get, is the same thing as, I get what I like.
You might just as well say, I breathe when I sleep, is the same thing as, I sleep when I breathe.
It is the same thing with you. What day of the month is it?
The 4th.
2 days wrong. I told you butter would not suit the works.
It was the best butter.
Yes, but some crumbs must have got in as well. You shouldn't have put it in with the bread knife.
It was the best butter, you know.
What a funny watch. It tells the day of the month, and doesn't tell what o'clock it is.
Why should it? Does your watch tell you what year it is?
Of course not, but that's because it stays the same year for such a long time together.
Which is just the case with mine.
I don't quite understand you.
The Dormouse is asleep again.
I think you might do something better with the time than wasting it in something that have no answers.
If you knew time as well as I do, you wouldn't talk about wasting it. It's him.
I don't know what you mean.
Of course you don't. I dare say you never spoke to time.
Perhaps not, but I know I have to beat time when I learn music.
Ah! That accounts for it. He won't stand beating. Now, if you only kept on good terms with him, he'd do almost anything you liked with the clock. For instance, suppose it were 9 o'clock in the morning, just time to begin lessons, you'd only have to whisper a hint to time, and round goes the clock in a twinkling. 1:30, time for dinner.
I only wish it was.
That would be grand, certainly, but then I shouldn't be hungry for it, you know.
Not at first, perhaps, but you could keep it to 1:30 as long as you liked.
Is that the way you manage?
Not I.
Silence in court. I call upon the second witness. The March Hare.
Let's start the Queen of Words game.
Halfway through. White Rabbit, you may investigate.
Yes, Your Majesty. Give your evidence. What did the Hatter mean by twinkling?
It was the best butter, you know. We quarreled last March, just before I went mad, you know. It was at the great concert given by Your Majesty, and the Hatter had to sing, "Twinkle, twinkle, little bat, how I wonder what you're at." You know the song, perhaps?
I've heard something like it.
It goes on, you know, in this way, up above the world you fly, like a tea tray in the sky, twinkle, twinkle.
Well, I'd hardly finished the first verse, when Your Majesty bawled out, "He's murdering the time. Off with his head."
How dreadfully savage.
And ever since that, he won't do a thing I ask. It's always 6 o'clock.
Twinkle, 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 twinkle.
Leave off that. You're not here to sing. Let's continue with the game. I did not know myself that there was such a good lesson in my riddle. Any additional evidences?
I did offer some wine.
I didn't see any wine on the table.
There isn't any.
Then it wasn't very civil of you to offer it.
It wasn't very civil of you to sit down without being invited.
I didn't know it was your table. It's laid for a great many more than 3 and there's plenty of room to sit on.
Suppose we change the subject. I am getting tired of this. I vote the young lady to tell us a story.
I am afraid I don't know one.
March Hare. What is it with the wine? Where did he went? It wasn't very civil of him to leave without being told so.
Never mind. Call the next witness.
Cheshire Puss, approach me. It's pleased so far. Would you tell me please do cats eat bats? I wonder.
That depends a good deal on why you want to know.
I don't much care why.
Then it doesn't matter if cats eat bats or bats eat cats.
Why did the Hatter and March Hare suddenly left?
They're both mad.
But I don't want to deal among mad people.
Oh, you can't help that. We're all mad here. I am mad. You're mad.
How do you know I'm mad?
You must be.
And how do you know that you're mad?
To begin with, a dog's not mad. You grant that?
I suppose so.
Well, then, you see a dog growls when it's angry, and wags its tail when it's pleased. Now I growl when I'm pleased, and wag my tail when I'm angry. Therefore I'm mad.
I call it purring, not growling.
Call it what you like.
Where did he went?
Silence
The
in
Dormouse
court.
is asleep
I call
again.
upon the
Perhaps
third
it
witness.
doesn't understand English. I dare say it's a French mouse.
Où est passé le chat?
Cat, cat, cat.
Leave off that. And get up here and start talking and answer my riddles. Let's start. Dormouse, every time you answer my riddles, you always fell asleep. How is that?
Your Majesty, the March Hare made me drink all the wine, that is why I felt tired and sleepy.
I order for a 2 minutes recess.
Yes, Your Majesty. I call for a recess. Dormouse, you may take a break for a moment.
Oh, I beg your pardon. I quite forgot you didn't like cats.
Not like cats. Would you like cats, if you were me?
Well, perhaps not. Don't be angry about it. And yet I wish I could show you our cat Dinah. I think you'd take a fancy to cats if you could only see her. She is such a dear quiet thing, and she sits purring so nicely by the fire. licking her paws and washing her face, and she is such a nice soft thing to nurse, and she's such a capital one for catching mice. Oh, I beg your pardon, we won't talk about her anymore if you'd rather not.
We, indeed, as if I would talk on such a subject. Our family always hated cats, nasty, low, vulgar things. Don't let me hear the name again.
I won't indeed. Are you fond of dogs? There is such a nice little dog near our house I should like to show you. A little bright-eyed terrier, you know, with such long curly brown hair. And it'll fetch things when you throw them, and it'll sit up and beg for its dinner, and all sorts of things. I can't remember half of them, and it belongs to a farmer, you know, and he says it's so useful, it's worth £100. He says it kills all the rats and, oh dear, I'm afraid I've offended it again. Mouse dear, do come back again, and we won't talk about cats or dogs either, if you don't like them.
Let us move here, and then I'll tell you my history, and you'll understand why it is I hate cats and dogs.
Ah.
I beg your pardon, did you speak?
Not I.
How are you getting on at the moment, my dear Alice?
You promised to tell your history, you know, and why it is you hate C&D.
Mine is a long and sad tale.
It is long tale, certainly, but why do you call it sad?
You are not attending. What are you thinking of?
I beg your pardon, you had got to the fifth bend, I think.
I had not.
A knot? Oh, do let me help to undo it.
I shall do nothing of the sort. You insult me by talking such nonsense.
I didn't mean it, but you're so easily offended, you know. Please come back and finish your story. Yes, please do. What a pity it wouldn't stay. Ah, my dear. Let this be a lesson to you never to lose your temper. I wish I had our Dinah here, I know I do. She'd soon fetch it back. And who is Dinah, if I might venture to ask the question? Dinah's our cat. And she's such a capital one for catching mice, you can't think. And oh, I wish you could see her after the birds. Why, she'll eat a little bird as soon as look at it.
Game resumed. Where is the dormouse?
We can't start the game without the dormouse or it's game over, and the Knave of Hearts remain in prison, unless someone volunteer to take his place as a witness.
Oh, the Cheshire Cat volunteered.
Not I.
I wish you wouldn't keep appearing and vanishing so suddenly. You make one quite giddy.
All right.
You agreed.
Not that.
Let's proceed. You know the mechanics. I am tired of repeating it again. Let's start.
Well, I've often seen a cat without a grin, but a grin without a cat. It's the most curious thing I ever saw in all my life.
Where did the Cheshire Cat went?
Off with his whiskers. Go on with the next witness.
What is his sorrow?
It's all his fancy, that, he hasn't got no sorrow, you know. Come on. This here young lady, she wants for to know your history, she do.
I'll tell it her. Stand still both of you, and don't speak a word till I've finished.
I don't see how he can ever finish, if he doesn't begin.
Once, I was a real turtle.
Thank you, sir, for your interesting story.
When we were little, we went to school in the sea. The master was an old turtle. We used to call him Tortoise.
Why did you call him Tortoise if he wasn't one?
We called him Tortoise because he taught us. Really, you are very dull.
You ought to be ashamed of yourself for asking such a simple question. Drive on, old fellow. Don't be all day about it. Yes, we went to school in the sea, through you mayn't believe it.
I never said I didn't.
You did.
Hold your tongue.
We had the best of educations, in fact. We went to school every day.
I've been to a day school, too. You needn't be so proud as all that.
With extras?
Yes, we learned French and music.
And washing?
Certainly not.
Ah, then yours wasn't a really good school. Now, at ours, they had, at the end of the bill, French, music, and washing as extra.
You couldn't have wanted it much, living at the bottom of the sea.
I couldn't afford to learn it. I only took the regular course.
What was that?
Reeling and writhing, of course, to begin with, and then the different branches of arithmetic, ambition, distraction, uglification, and derision.
I never heard of uglification. What is it?
Never heard of uglifying. You know what to beautify is, I suppose?
Yes, it means to make anything prettier.
Well, then, if you don't know what to uglify is, you are a simpleton.
What else had you to learn?
Well, there was mystery, ancient and modern, with seography, then drawing. The drawing master was an old congeries. that used to come once a week. He taught us drawing, stretching, and fainting in coils.
What was that like?
Well, I can't show it you, myself, I'm too stiff. And the griffin never learnt it.
Hadn't time, I went to the classical master, though. He was an old crab, he was.
I never went to him, he taught laughing and grief, they used to say.
So he did.
And how many hours a day did you do lessons?
10 hours the first day, 9 the next, and so on.
What a curious plan.
That's the reason they're called lessons, because they lesson from day to day.
Then the 11th day must have been a holiday.
Of course it was.
And how did you manage on the 12th?
That's enough about lessons, tell her something about the games now.
Which one? The lobster quadrille dance, or I rather sing the turtle soup?
Oh, a song, please, if the mock turtle would be so kind.
No accounting for tastes. Sing her turtle soup, will you, old fellow?
Beautiful, beautiful soup.
The trial's game begins. I call upon the third witness.
Wait, Your Honor. Is it the fifth witness already? First Hatter, second March Hare, third Dormouse, fourth Cheshire Cat, and now it's the fifth.
You have a point, but I haven't announced the third witness when the Dormouse interrupted and became the witness, while the Cheshire Cat just volunteered. It's Your Majesty, the Queen's decision whether it'll be the third or fifth witness.
Then I pick the owl to play my game.
Your Majesty, the owl is part of the jury.
And whose decision it is who will answer my riddles.
Apologies, Your Majesty, it's your decision.
Then I order Bill the Lizard to take the place of the owl and be part of the jury. Get to your places and we shall start.
Owl, you may step down. Your Majesty, we haven't gathered much evidence.
Then you must cross-examine the next witness. Call the last witness.
Oh, how I wish I could shut up like a telescope. I think I could, if I only knew how to begin.
Who are you?
My name is Alice. I hardly know, sir. Just at present, at least I know who I was when I got up this morning, but I think I must have been changed several times since then.
What do you mean by that? Explain yourself.
I can't explain myself, I'm afraid, sir, because I'm not myself, you see.
I don't see.
I'm afraid I can't put it more clearly, for I can't understand it myself to begin with, and being so many different sizes in a day is very confusing.
It isn't.
Well, perhaps you haven't found it so yet, but when you have to turn into a chrysalis, you will someday, you know, and then after that into a butterfly. I should think you'll feel it a little queer, won't you?
Not a bit.
Well, perhaps your feelings may be different. All I know is, it would feel very queer to me.
You, who are you?
I think you ought to tell me who you are, first.
Why? Come back, Alice. I've something important to say. Keep your temper.
Is that all?
No. So you think you're changed, do you?
I'm afraid I am, sir. I can't remember things as I used to be and I don't keep the same size for 10 minutes together.
Can't remember what things?
Well, I've tried to say how doth the little busy bee, but it all came different.
Repeat, you are old, Father William.
You are handsome and young, Grandfather William.
I can see you're trying to invent something. I am sure those are not the right words. Again, you are old, Father William.
You are handsome and young, Father William.
That is not said right.
Not quite right, I'm afraid. Some of the words have got altered.
It is wrong from beginning to end. And who are these?
How should I know? It's no business of mine. Why, they're only a pack of cards, after all. I needn't be afraid of them.
What size do you want to be?
Oh, I'm not particular as to size. Only one doesn't like changing so often, you know.
I don't know.
When one wasn't always growing larger and smaller, you know, that sort of life.
Shall you never get older that you're now?
That'll be a comfort. One way, be a good little girl and never to be an old woman. Oh, I shouldn't like that it is unrealistic, but then, always to have lessons to learn and work hard to attain your goals in life.
Very well said.
I could tell you my adventures, beginning from this morning, but it's no use going back to yesterday, because I was a different person then.
Silence all round, so that we shall start the trial game. The last witness who will play the game is Alice.
What a curious feeling. I must be shutting up like a telescope, but it's no use now to pretend to be two people. I must do good and make things right to make one respectable person.
Before we start, let's do a recap. Who already played the Queen of Words game? First Hatter, second March Hare, third Dormouse, fourth Cheshire Cat, fifth Owl, sixth and last Alice. Riddles 90 and 9. Have I asked that much riddles? Now we have come to the last, and for my last question. It's a reward, you are all pardoned, and the effect of the potion is already reversed and no need to speak in rhymes. And because the last square hearts is a reward, you are granted immunity for the next round, so you no longer need to form sentences using all the words. But you have to play the final round in order to obtain the key to free the Knave of Hearts. White Rabbit, you may interrogate for the last time.
Yes, Your Majesty. Alice, what do you know about this business?
Nothing.
Nothing whatever?
Nothing whatever.
That's very important.
Unimportant. Your Majesty means, of course.
Unimportant, of course, I meant.
Important. But it doesn't matter a bit.
Oh, at least the juries have something to write. I thought they're gonna stare at the entire trial game.
In that case, I move that the meeting adjourn, for the immediate adoption of more energetic remedies.
I advise you to leave off this minute. Silence, Rule 42. All persons more than a meter high to leave the court.
I'm not a meter high.
You are, nearly 2 meter high.
Well, I shall not go, at any rate, even if I am the only person in human form in this court. Besides, that's not a regular rule. You invented it just now.
It's the oldest rule in the book.
Then it ought to be number 1.
Consider your verdict.
There's more evidence to come yet. Please, Your Majesty. This paper had just been picked up.
What's in it?
I haven't opened it yet, but it seems to be a letter written by the prisoner to somebody.
It must have been that, unless it was written to nobody, which isn't usual, you know.
Who is it directed to?
It isn't directed at all. In fact, there's nothing written on the outside. It isn't a letter, after all. It's a set of verses.
Are they in the prisoner's handwriting?
No, they're not. And that's the queerest thing about it.
He must have imitated somebody else's hand.
Please, Your Majesty, I didn't write it, and they can't prove that I did. There's no name signed at the end.
If you didn't sign it, that only makes the matter worse. You must have meant some mischief, or else you'd have signed your name like an honest man. That proves his guilt, of course, so, off with.
It doesn't prove anything of the sort. Why? You don't even know what they're about.
Read them.
Where shall I begin? Please, Your Majesty.
Begin at the beginning, and go on till you come to the end, then stop.
Thus were the 100 riddles made, which in this book you now have read. Many may deem them trifling things, yet practice in them ever brings great quickness to the youthful mind, as all may soon by trial find. Those who soon trace a riddle out are quick at solving any doubt, and many a thing is taught in schools, not half so good for curing fools. As riddling is, the thing is true, as men of your far better knew.
That's the most important piece of evidence we've heard yet, so now let the jury.
If any one of them can explain it, I'll give him 6pence. I don't believe there's an atom of meaning in it.
If there's no meaning in it, that saves a world of trouble, you know, as we don't need try to find any. And yet I don't know, I seem to see some meaning in them, after all. Let's start the final round. You must eliminate all the words in the square panel, whether it be by similarity, meaning, kinds, genre, species, etc. But the final word to be pressed must be the square panel key. First, you have to choose a teammate who will press the square panel. Then if it's correct, the square panel will light, but if you lack something or make a mistake, it will not light and you have to try again. You're only given 2 extra lives to finish the final round or is game over.
I choose Flamingo to be my teammate.
You may just choose the numbers equivalent to the words in the square panel. You may start.
And 26 to panel 100. And last square panel 58 key.
Congratulations, you all have successfully completed the game. The Knave of Hearts is released from prison.
Let the jury consider their verdict.
No. Sentence first, verdict afterwards.
Stuff and nonsense. The idea of having the sentence first.
Hold your tongue.
I won't.
Off with her head.
Did Alice went inside the looking glass?
The end. Thank you for watching the Queen of Words game.